Howdy, listeners. This is your host, Random Nerd, on the Critical Thinking Nerd podcast. This is episode 2, part 2 in the Positive Masculinity series. A surface-level deep dive where the goal isn't to give you all the answers, but to hand you better questions. Questions you can wrestle with on your own time, in your own relationships. In episode 2, part 1, we talked about partnership, men and women as allies, not enemies. In this episode, we're zooming in on a loaded topic, masculinity and femininity, and how they can complement each other instead of waging a never-ending, quote, battle of the sexes, unquote. This won't be a culture war rant. It's an invitation to think more clearly, more honestly, and more courageously. Let's dive in. To start, what do we even mean by quote-unquote masculine and quote-unquote feminine? Most people throw those words around like everyone agrees what they mean. But do we? Some people treat masculine and feminine as strictly biological. Others use them as descriptions of energy or tendencies that can exist in both men and women. And then there's the cultural layer, what each time and place labels as manly or girly. For this episode, let's loosely define them as patterns we observe, not chains we impose. Masculine tendencies: direction, structure, initiative, protection, problem solving. Feminine tendencies: nurture, receptivity, empathy, rational sensitivity, weaving connection. Not rules, not boxes, just tendencies that show up differently in different people and cultures. To add, here are 3 questions for you to think over for yourself. Which of those traits do you naturally lean toward, regardless of your sex? Were you encouraged or shamed for those traits growing up? How much of your idea of masculine or feminine comes from actual observation? And how much comes from movies, social media, or wounded people venting online? Continuing on. Complementarity, stronger together, or just a nice slogan? A lot of people say men and women complement each other. But what does that actually look like? Think of a partnership where one person is more naturally decisive, big picture, and mission-focused, and the other is more naturally attuned to how people feel, the relational health, the unspoken tension in the room. When they respect each other, that parent makes decisions that are both effective and humane. But here's the catch. Complementarity only works when it's rooted in mutual respect, not superiority. Healthy complementarity means no one's strengths are used as weapons. But both sides must recognize my blind spots are covered when I value what you bring, even if I don't fully understand it yet. Here is some thought-provoking critical questions to answer for yourself. Are there areas in your life where you secretly resent the opposite sex because of their strengths oppose your weaknesses? Do you actually want partnership, or do you want control with someone who will just agree with you? We now dive into the heart of modern discourse. The, quote, battle of the sexes, unquote, story. Who wins from the war? Scroll social media for 5 minutes and you'll find it. Men dragging women, women dragging men. Endless clips designed to make you hate or fear the opposite sex. Ask yourself, who benefits from you living like you're at war with half of humanity? Usually, it's platforms that profit from outrage and division. Think of RageBait and the bare minimum trends. Voices who build a brand off of your fear, anger, or pain. Ideologies that thrive when people are isolated, suspicious, and bitter. Male loneliness epidemic. The quote-unquote battle of the sexes mindset turns every interaction into a scorecard. Who texts first? Who, quote, has the leverage, unquote? Who's using who? Partnership dies when everything becomes a negotiation of power instead of a pursuit of shared good. Now, since this series is directed at men, the call here is for men to step out of that war. But honestly, also requires the saying there are toxic expressions of feminism that do the same thing from the other side. Dehumanizing men, treating all masculinity as suspect, and normalizing contempt instead of accountability and discernment. That mindset is gasoline on the quote-unquote battle of the sexes fire, just as toxic red pill masculinity is. The answer is not to counterattack women. It's for healthy women to hold other women accountable, just as healthy men must call out other men up and out when they are destructive. You can even say it plainly in the episode. Men need strong, virtuous men calling out toxic masculinity. Women need strong, virtuous women calling out toxic feminism. Without both, the gender war never ends, because everyone thinks only the other side is the problem. Here's some core questions to sit with. How many of your beliefs about the opposite sex comes from your own experience versus from content designed to trigger you? Have you ever excused harmful behavior from your side because you liked the label masculinist, feminist, whatever, more than you loved the truth? Think of It's a Guy's Thing, or Women Test Men on various green light, red light games. If you're a woman listening, do you surround yourself with women who challenge your bitterness and contempt toward men, or who constantly feed it? If you're a man, are you more focused on attacking toxic feminism than on fixing the places where you are not yet the man who you claim to be? Here's some questions worth wrestling with. This is where we touch the third rails, not to stir up hate, but to spark deeper thought. Sit with these. Don't rush to answer out loud. 1. If all gender roles are purely oppressive, why do some couples report feeling more stable and fulfilled when they voluntarily embrace certain roles or polarities? 2. If masculinity is always dangerous and femininity is always oppressed, how do we explain healthy, sacrificial, life-giving men and strong, respected women who thrive together? 3. Are you rejecting certain roles or traits because they are truly unjust, or because someone who embodied them hurt you? 5. Have you ever used your hurt as a universal rule about quote-unquote all men or quote-unquote all women? And what has that cost you? 5. If women can call out male behavior, as they should, what does healthy female accountability look like when women mistreat men or fuel division? And 6, if women fail to call out bad behavior from other women and a man takes accountability into his own hands, why is he suddenly treated as a monster? You don't have to share your answers with anyone, but if you avoid these questions entirely, it's worth asking, what exactly are you afraid of discovering? We now look through the Stoic lens on masculine-feminine dynamics. Bringing this back to Stoicism and positive masculinity. Stoicism doesn't tell men to dominate women or to become emotionless robots. It calls men to govern themselves before trying to govern others. Act with justice, courage, temperaments, and wisdom, regardless of how others behave. See other humans, including the opposite sex, as partners in a shared human community. From that lens, a Stoic man doesn't fear feminine strength. He respects it and learns from it. A Stoic man doesn't weaponize his masculine traits. He channels them in service of stability, protection, and order that benefits others, not just himself. A Stoic man doesn't join gender wars. He seeks understanding, sets boundaries where needed, and refuses to let resentment rule his character. My personal observation and experience: the gym. Men and women are there for health and fitness purposes. But when men, your gym bros, observe a fellow gym person struggling, I will bet you $1,000 that any man will step in to assist that person. Gender has no labels in the gym, aside from locker rooms, but that's completely separate. In addition, if a woman lifts heavy weights, men will show immense respect for the women lifting said weight. Separately, the videos of women acting with slutty behavior for views and even false accusation against men is abhorrent to the unspoken gym code of mutual respect for simply working out. And with that same spirit, a mature woman, if she embraces virtue over ideology, will also resist movements or mindsets that train her to see all men as enemies, and will challenge other women when bitterness turns into injustice. Here's some reflection. What would it look like for you as a man or woman to relate to the opposite sex with curiosity instead of suspicion? When Stoic virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, or temperaments do you most need to grow in to improve how you relate to the opposite sex? If you modeled your gender interactions on Marcus Aurelius' humility and sense of duty, what would change first? Who in your life can lovingly hold you accountable when your views of the opposite sex cross from honest caution into blanket contempt? Closing. This episode was intentionally surface level. The goal is not to settle debates, but to plant questions. Are masculinity and femininity real, meaningful patterns, or just social illusions? Do men and women truly have to be in opposition? Or is there a path of principled, honest partnership? Are men willing to call out toxic masculinity? And are women willing to call out toxic feminism? So that both can meet in the middle with cleaner hands? And are you willing to question not just them, but also your own assumptions, wounds, and habits? If any of this stirred something in you, don't just react. Research, read, talk to people you trust. Observe your own life with a little more honesty this week. In a future episode, we'll go deeper into healing from gender wounds, how experiences with fathers, mothers, exes, and online discourse shape your view of the opposite sex, and how to move from blame to responsibility without ignoring real pain. Until then, stay reflective, stay grounded, and keep asking better questions about what it really means to be a good man or a good woman in a world that profits from keeping us at war. If you found this episode meaningful, please continue to listen to my next episode as I dive deeper and research further to share my knowledge with you. Thank you.